is to represent, serve and protect the interest of counties and their governments. Further aware of the critical role that the Senate plays in the interlinkage between national and county levels of government, and the need to enhance interaction between Senate and county governments as a means of bringing Senate closer to the counties and the general public, acknowledging the success made during the sittings of the Senate outside Nairobi, held in Uasin Gishu, Kitui and Turkana counties in September 2018, 2019 and 2023 respectively. Further acknowledging that the recommendation of the Senate Business Committee that a sitting of the Senate to be held away from the traditional premises of Parliament buildings, Nairobi, during the term of the 13th Parliament and the subsequent resolution of the Senate made on 8th of March 2023 to hold plenary and committee sittings in the Senate for a one-week period within the month of September in every session of the 4th Senate, except during an election year, with an objective to 1, promote the role and work of the Senate and enhance public awareness regarding business of the Senate and Parliament in general. 2, highlight existing and new opportunities for engagement in legislative process. 3, develop and strengthen partnerships at the county level of government. And 4, provide opportunity to members and staff of the county assemblies to learn and share best practices with senators and parliamentary officers. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 126(1) of the Constitution, the Senate resolves to hold its plenary and committee sittings in Busia County from 23rd to 27th of September 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a very important tradition that we've established as a House. We have gone to Turkana last year. We have been to Uasin Gishu, which was the inaugural Senate Mashinani program. We went to Kitui, Mr. Speaker, and the feedback that we continue to get from the people of Kenya is that engages more. Mr. Speaker, it is increasingly becoming clear that there is need for a deeper connection between the people that we represent and us as their leaders. In the present crisis facing the country, where many citizens are up in arms, Mr. Speaker, and challenging and calling for more accountability from their elected representatives and officials, then Senate Mashinani provides a perfect opportunity for us as representatives of the people, specifically as directed by Article 96, Mr. Speaker, to engage at the county levels with various factions of the county government, Mr. Speaker, and senators appreciate for themselves the work that is going on in the rolling out of devolution programs. And more importantly, Mr. Speaker, other institutions can as well learn from us, such as the county assemblies, which get to interact with our very professional staff and members of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, and learn more on how to better interact and learn best practices with regards to legislative work. Mr. Speaker, I am particularly impressed that in the last seasons where we have gone out, there have been very interactive forums and many resolutions have come out. I know for a fact, for example, Mr. Speaker, that when we went to Uasin Gishu, there had been a long-standing issue between the county government of Uasin Gishu and the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. It was the then Standing Committee on Health, after sitting down with the management of the hospital and the county government of Uasin Gishu, then led by our now colleague Senator Jackson Mandago, that were able to resolve that long-standing dispute. And the residents of Uasin Gishu were able to appreciate and say that is what we have always called for, because the residents of county of Uasin Gishu, Mr. Speaker, did not have a county referral hospital. The Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital is a national facility for which they have to share with the rest of the region. Almost 25 counties that are featured in the western part of the country all rely on Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. And it was during that interactive session, Mr. Speaker, that that was resolved. When we went to Kitui, Mr. Speaker, I do recall quite fondly our interactions with various members of the public. I always particularly quote the case, Mr. Speaker, of our Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. And I don't know if Senator Faki was part of that committee, Mr. Speaker, that they visited Kitui prisons. And just during that interactive session, they were able to unlock a stalemate between members of the public and the prisons department, many hundreds of people, Mr. Speaker. And you know, Mr. Speaker, that's why even people are up in arms against how we operated as a country, Mr. Speaker. We had close to 200 prisoners or remandees that were being kept inside police cells, costing the government more than the fines that we were supposed to pay for them to be released. 3,000, 5,000. You know, to accommodate a remandee in our prisons, Mr. Speaker, perhaps it costs 200, 300, 400 shillings or 500 shillings per day. If you keep that fellow in for more than 10 days, what exactly are you saying? Because at the end of the day, the fine that they have been charged, you will end up as a government incurring more than what they were supposed to have paid. And that stalemate was resolved by our Justice and Legal Affairs Committee during the visit to Kitui Prison, Mr. Speaker. And they were able to give a resolution of the House, and that matter was resolved. The only failure, which Senator Faki, you must bear responsibility, as a senior legislator, as an advocate of the High Court, is that since then, as a Senate, we have not come and proposed any legislation to make sure that such cases that are now replicated across all our prisons are actually done away with. And that is part of the challenges that we are experiencing with in the country, and a demand for a better, more accountable government and institutions, Mr. Speaker, as that case was. When we were in Turkana, Mr. Speaker, just to quote one example, a final one, is that I know for a fact that our various committees visited many devolution-led programs that have been rolled out by the county government of Turkana in the last 10 years, Mr. Speaker. And they were able to appreciate and compare what is recorded in audit reports. I know for a fact that the CPIC committee chose not only to sit in the County Assembly of Turkana, but actually went on visiting many of the programs that were being found for one reason or the other to be not probably established or rolled out, Mr. Speaker. And they could see and take the auditors to task. Because, you know, Mr. Speaker, I've always said that the structure with which we run our Public Accounts Committee, Mr. Speaker, leaves 90% or sometimes even 100% of the membership without a clear on-ground picture of the projects that are being discussed. If you're discussing the county government of Kericho, a particular road, Mr. Speaker, perhaps it is only the senator of that particular county that knows that road or that tea-buying center or whatever project where auditors are flagged on issues of maladministration. The rest of the committee's members have no idea what has happened in that particular institution. And therefore, it is easy for either auditors or the county government to get away with issues that necessarily would have been flagged off, or people will have had better understanding had they gone, Mr. Speaker, and interacted with that particular forum easily. Therefore, there are a lot of successful stories to tell from Senate Mashinani. Mr. Speaker, I know we have our critics. I saw our media. Immediately we left Turkana. They went and interacted with a few people in Turkana town and said, oh, these people are here. They were driving in Prados. They never even opened the windows for us to meet them. You know, Mr. Speaker, if you choose to focus on what did not work, you will never lack something for Kenyans to complain about. It's a standard Kenyan culture. But I am sure if that journalist who covered that story had been more diligent and went and interacted with the residents of the sites that our various committees visited while in Turkana, they would have found alternative feedback. But be that as it may, that is our country. That is the culture that we are used to, where when you portray leaders in bad light or when you complain and show how things have failed, things are not working, then you are recorded or you're considered to have been successful at exposing something. That level of pettiness can never take a country forward, Mr. Speaker. And I'd wish to challenge our journalists. I've quoted this example many times. That recently, for example, Mr. Speaker, before we went to Bunge Towers, there's a journalist who was accorded an exclusive view of the building. And they were taken through the committee rooms, the newly refurbished, complete with witness stands and new audiovisual equipment, and the kind of spaces that members will now be conducting business from, making it more visible. That now, even, Mr. Speaker, and I don't know how far that process is, because of the audiovisual technology in those committee rooms, Mr. Speaker, members of the public can even follow committee rooms, committee meetings as they happen live and direct. And I wish that if the clerk of the Senate is watching and the administration, that program can actually be rolled out so that citizens appreciate better. Because especially committee sittings like Public Accounts Committee, because these are sittings that draw a lot of public attention when they are being considered. That's part and parcel of the installations that are in the new building. But the Kenya journalist, when he was allowed that opportunity, what did they go and focus on? They say these people have built a big kitchen, they have a gym on whatever floor, trying to reduce the entire structure. That is, of all the things that they saw, that is what captured, their attention. At some point, Mr. Speaker, we will also have to be serious with ourselves and say, how do we critique and become more reasonable, raise the standard of our argument, so that the standing of our leaders and the standing of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, is not just to be reduced about lajis. There are people who in this country, apart from knowing that there is tea and mandazi in Parliament, Mr. Speaker, there's nothing else that they will ever appreciate about this institution, because the people that are supposed to tell that story, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, either are unwilling or are not able to raise the level of their criticism and argument to the standard that is expected. And that is why Senate Mashinani provides an opportunity for members of the public, Mr. Speaker, to see, interact. When we visit these sessions, like now when we'll be in Busia in September, Mr. Speaker, it will be open for members of the public. They'll come and watch our debates. They'll come and see. There are people who have never seen Dan Maanzo. They will interact with him, question him. If there are things they don't appreciate about him, they will ask him. Mr. Speaker, that is what is expected to come out of this Senate Mashinani program, and why I am a firm believer, and I agree with the wisdom that went into the formation of this, Mr. Speaker. Even these things that you're talking about presently in the country, Mr. Speaker, this is one such opportunity. I hear, Mr. Speaker, that people are saying you don't want to provide an opportunity or a platform, that it is time for action. We don't want people to engage in conversations. But, Mr. Speaker, you know for a fact that even for that action to happen, people must sit down and agree on how that action is to be taken. We must have a conversation, for example. We will have concluded and said, okay, don't give me this or the other. We need to reduce the public wage bill. SRC must come and say how practical that is. And for that engagement to happen, Mr. Speaker, you must provide a forum. And that is what Senate Mashinani does, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we must resist this urge, Mr. Speaker, to try and box people sometimes and say that enough is enough. That there is no opportunity for you to say this or the other. A country that does not speak, a country that does not converse, Mr. Speaker, a society where people cannot disagree without being rude or, Mr. Speaker, violent with each other, is not a forward-looking society. In any society, Mr. Speaker, there will be people who will hold different views on various matters. But at least speak, we must allow. We are a constitutional democracy, Mr. Speaker. Your view must not necessarily coincide with mine. There are views that I have that must not necessarily agree with Senator Eddie Oketch. But I look forward to a point where I will not be able to tell him that I don't want to hear your view and I don't want to meet you. That just do what you know you need to do. I don't think that's a kind of country that you're looking forward to. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, Senate Mashinani is one such program. I know the people of Busia are waiting for us because there are things that they want to ask us as a Senate. All these questions that are being raised about the quality of our work, the legislative agenda that we do, that people are becoming more critical of our work. I see even senior lawyers struggle to understand what is the exact route that a bill takes from introduction up to assent. This Senate Mashinani provides such an opportunity where people will meet, they'll interact, and they'll be able to learn and know, Mr. Speaker, how this program is done. Therefore, or how legislative work open. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to being in Busia from the 23rd to the 27th of September and meeting the people of Busia, Mr. Speaker, interacting with them, getting to learn of devolution, its successes and failures in that particular county, and how we can entrench devolution on so many other aspects. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request the Senator for Makueni, Senator Danson Maanzo, to second.